starting soon. Okay, we're live for our book discussion of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So nobody's here yet, so we're just gonna hang and talk about the tea we're drinking because Sarah has made, what do you call this? Tea mix? Tea mixes? Tea?
I've combined two teas.
Yes, two
that
teas.
are very loosely inspired by the book because I always try to make the tea. Since last live show, I've been trying to make the teas that we drink based around the book. I don't know if I'm very good at that, but I try.
I don't know. This was hard for me to guess. Like, it didn't taste like anything specific, but whatever. What is this again? It's vanilla latte?
Yes, it's the vanilla latte,
Yeah.
and I believe it's called Winter Dreams Arrrgh tea.
Yeah. Sarah's like, it's themed on the book. It's like, how? Took me a while to get there. But
Yeah.
winter, snow.
Vanilla also
It's-
sort of color-wise.
Oh, it's like, what? Okay. I'm gonna just have to go with you on that.
Mm.
So anyway, it tastes good. So we'll wait until people come in and hang with us to start talking about our thoughts, but yeah. So, well, I guess we can get started. Do you want to start with your thoughts, Sarah?
You can start.
Oh, can I?
Yes.
I don't know how to begin this. I didn't hate the book, but I did not really like it either. I'm very conflicted about it, really, because I'm kind of the mind that we didn't really need this. Certainly not 500 pages of it.
This book should have been
But-
a novella.
Yeah, it definitely needed to be shorter. Like, I just feel like there was too much and not enough happening. It felt very slow and then really fast and then really slow and then really fast. And it was just such weird pacing that I didn't quite enjoy it. I found myself bored a lot and frustrated while reading it. And I wish that it had been edited better because I feel like this book really needed to be trimmed down by at least 150 pages. Like, there was just a lot of nothing happening throughout the whole book, and it just made me feel like frustrated as I was reading. And I'll go into more specific things later, but that was my overall, just like, I felt frustrated and bored a lot of the time while I was reading, and I would have DNF'd this. This would have been a DNF probably at the halfway point, but I had to finish because of this live show, so I was like, no, I'm gonna press through, and I literally finished it this morning because it took me over a week to read it.
I mean, like half the month to read.
Yeah, and I kept bugging Sarah to finish because I needed to get the book from her so I could read it, and you struggled.
Well, see, our experiences were different though because I wasn't really in the mood to read the book anyway, so I was kind of forcing myself to read it from the beginning. But you went into it really excited.
Yeah, I was
So,
this is my
I wasn't-
most anticipated book of the year.
I
so.
wasn't disappointed by it because I didn't have high expectations in the first place. And it's kind of met my expectations, I suppose.
I would say I had high expectations when I first heard about it, and then when I knew it was going to be a snow book, my expectations dropped a little, but I was still excited because I loved the Hunger Games. I will say that I'm a huge fan of the Hunger Games trilogy. That's one of my all-time favorite YA dystopian trilogies. I just think it's such a really great, well-written, well-plotted story. And so I was looking forward to going back to that world, but I don't know if this was the right venue for it. So, I don't know. I feel like there are other characters that I would have rather seen their perspective rather than just Snow all the time. Like, I just felt it was too much. Like, I liked Katniss, and I liked getting her perspective. So, having it from her perspective the whole time through the whole trilogy was fine because I liked her as a character. I was interested and I was invested. I didn't really care about what was going to happen. I knew what was going to happen to Snow. I know where his story ends. So to have him be the focus of the book was just sort of why. And I felt like it was just too much. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, like, it needed to either be a novella or keep the length but be multiple perspectives, because otherwise, that's why it drags so much. I think if those slower parts were replaced with other characters,
I would have
loved
loved to get a book that had Sejanus, I don't know if that's right, Sejanus or Sejanus? Sejanus, I'm going to call him Sejanus. I would have liked to have his perspective. I would have loved to have Lucy Gray's perspective, because I think having that would have broken it up in a way that would just have made the boring parts more interesting. Or not even have boring parts, because you can get out of Snow's head for a little while and see a different person's perspective of the story. That would have been great.
Also a different person's perspective of Snow. That would have been cool. Because, like, I mean, since you only see things through his eyes, like, we're missing so much, like, I don't know what I'm looking for. But I just feel like...
Perspective?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But he's not a protagonist character, so reading this book from the perspective that he's the protagonist just doesn't feel right. It just felt off.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to write a story from a villain's perspective, because usually that kind of... I don't know. I like villainous characters because I think that, like, the morally grayness of it can be really fun, but, like, there wasn't enough gray area.
There was no gray. He was terrible.
Yeah.
There was no... I don't know. And I didn't want this to be, like, trying to give some redemption to... Like, he doesn't deserve that.
And I'm glad the book
And
didn't
I'm glad
try.
that it didn't. But also, at the same time, it was just, like, too much. You can see, like, he was so manipulative. And the way he would, like, take every situation he was in and try to steer it into a way to make him look better. Like, that scene in the zoo when Arrrgh is taunting her, I forget the word they use. Tribute. Yeah, when she's taunting her tribute with the food and she gets, like, her throat slit, I think. And his instinct is to pull back, and then he goes, wait, how can I turn this situation into something where I look like a hero? And then he rushes to help her, and that's what the cameras focus on. And so he was just always so, like, manipulative and just such an awful, like, sociopath. And, like, I don't know, I didn't like being in his head the whole book. And I was talking to Sarah earlier, and I was saying how, like, the multiple perspectives would have helped, but, like, the fourth book in the Song of Ice and Fire, all of those perspectives were from people that I didn't really want to read their perspective. Like, they're the ones that I was usually, like, skimming through to get to the next one, and so to have a whole book of that was rough. And that's what this was for me. It was just a whole book of a person's perspective that I didn't care. So, yeah, I really wish that we could have broken that up with some other characters, just so that I wasn't in such a icky place the whole time.
Or, you know, if it was a Lucy Gray centric book.
Yes, I
That
would
would've
have
been a lot of
loved
fun.
if it was a Lucy Gray book, and we could have seen it through her perspective, and or even a Sejanus book. I would have read that, because that would have been an interesting perspective too, to
I
have
think
him.
that would have been harder to pull off though, since he's not a recognizable character. Like, I understand the reasoning behind making it a Snow book, yet I don't like it at the same time. But, like, I think it would have been harder to pitch a Sejanus
I
book.
suppose, but a Lucy book would have been great, because I feel like she wasn't, I don't want to say an undeveloped character, because she was developed, but she was just sort of...
She was developed from one person's
from
perspective.
just hit, and I wanted to know more about her and the Covey and all of that. I wanted more of that, so that would have been interesting to get that perspective. So yeah, I felt kind of let down, I guess, by this, just because I had, like, gotten so excited about it. So I don't know. Yeah, Jessica says, I felt like part of the point was to show how he was conditioned by his upbringing to turn out the way he did. That he had a choice, but he didn't even have the capacity to understand. I don't know that he didn't have the capacity to understand. I think he knew. And there was a lot in the book too about him talking about, what was it, control and contract, and what was the other word? Control, something, and contract. I should have made notes. But I felt like he was aware all of the time about the choices he was making. And he was also aware that he could have made a different choice. And so I feel like he knew he could have gone, and like at the end, when he's running away with Lucy, and his first thought after leaving was, wait a minute, I'm gonna have to live out here in the woods and like do what? Hunt food? Like dig worms? Ew. And that's when it was like, I guess I can't handle this. And you knew he was gonna abandon her, like obviously going in, I knew that was gonna happen, but like him just even like his thought process there was so frustrating. Like, what did he think it was going to be? I don't know. He made bad choices, but I don't know that I believe he did it because of his environment as a child, because Tigress didn't. And she grew up with him, and we see by the end of the books, Tigress was fighting alongside not fighting alongside Katniss, but aiding and abetting her, and happy that she was going to kill Snow. I would have liked to know more about how Tigress got from A to B, but
even like if the book also had her perspective.
Yeah, I would have loved to get Tigress' perspective, because again, we only see her through Snow, who thinks she's just this angelic, perfect being, and kind of like the same way he views his mother, I think. So I don't know. I struggled. I think like the first little bit, and I'm like, I don't care that you're poor. I don't care that it's hard on you, that you're struggling and having to eat cabbage. Like, boo-hoo. I don't know. I could not sympathize with him. Oh yeah, the lima beans. Oh, so sad. I'm like, I don't care. I know where you end up. I don't know. And the way he came into his relationship with Lucy bothered me so much. Just the possessiveness and how this is my girl and she's mine. I don't know. I did not like that. It made me very uncomfortable and very worried for Lucy, because I'm like, where is this going to go? I know he doesn't end up with her. So yeah.
Also the ambiguity of what happens to her at the end.
Yes.
Where she's basically been erased from existence.
Yeah.
So, even if she survived.
Well, see, I love that she was erased from existence, but her songs live on. So that I thought was kind of cool. So I think we've kind of segued into some things. I made a very loose outline for the discussion. So let's just jump to characters. So we kind of talked about how much we despise Snow. So what about Sejanus? Let's talk about Sejanus for a minute, because I struggled to, like, I don't know. I think because we're only seeing him from Snow's perspective, I just had a hard time latching onto him. By the end of the book, I was on his side, and obviously, like, he was not like his conscience necessarily, but he was a means to kind of hopefully guiding Snow in a better direction, I think. But Snow wasn't there for it. He was just never on his side, even though Sejanus believed in his heart that Snow was his friend. And I don't know. I felt like Sejanus needed to be more fleshed out, because I struggled to like him for half the book. And I think it was like the halfway point that I had to stop and say, wait a second. He's obviously a good guy. I need to like get into the right mind space to see that, because I don't think we were allowed to. And that bothered me, because obviously he was doing the right thing, and the way he was standing up and like trying to say, hey, this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. And I don't know. And the way that Snow was so eager to ignore him and distance himself from him unless it made him look good. Like, it bothered me a lot the way we see in the epilogue that Sejanus, his family basically adopts Snow in place of him. And I was like, do you guys not understand? He murdered your son? But obviously not. But yeah, I don't, and honestly, I don't even know if what is it, Strabo? His Sejanus's father, Strabo, is that his name? I don't even know if he would have cared if he knew that Snow murdered his son, because I feel like he was more inclined to care about his status. And if Sejanus causing problems was going to bother and affect his status, then he would have been more than willing to shuffle him off somewhere and adopt Snow, who was more inclined to fit what he wanted his son to be like. Which is very disturbing if you think about it. Like, the fact that they were social climbers, I felt bad for Ma Plinth, because I felt like she just kind of got dragged along. I mean, so did Sejanus. They both got dragged along in his eagerness to rise. So I don't know, but yeah, I really wish there'd been more character development there so that I could have appreciated who he was throughout the story, instead of having to realize halfway through that, oh, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to like him.
Well, technically you're not supposed to like the way the book was written.
I know, that bothers me, because I'm supposed to like him. I'm supposed to care about him, but I couldn't, because I don't know. That bothered me a lot. But I will say Lucy Gray was like the lone character for me that actually had her own voice. Like, I could hear her in my head, and she was very much a character that I could like latch on to, where most of the others weren't. But I feel like Lucy Gray was intriguing in that she was so well drawn, and I've seen people call her a manic pixie dream girl, and I guess she kind of was drawn that way. I can see it, but I also think that she was an interesting character just on her own. I would have loved her perspective. I will never forgive Suzanne Collins for not letting us see her perspective. I needed that so badly, because I feel like she would have been so interesting to hear from. Like, I want to know what she really thought, because you can kind of see at the end her connecting the dots and realizing that maybe this wasn't right. But we don't really get to see it because she just disappears after that. So, I don't know, that kind of bothered me. But I do like the way that you can kind of put her as an ancestor of Katniss, because I just felt like that's what that was meant to show us, that this is her connection to Katniss. That we know from the Hunger Games books that Katniss's father was a singer, and that Katniss too was a singer, and he taught her all these songs, and they were Lucy's songs. And so I feel like that must be like her great-grandmother, maybe, or I don't know. I've been trying to decide if it was Lucy or if it was Maud Ivory, maybe, was her relative, her ancestor, but I don't know.
I like it doesn't necessarily have to be a direct link to the Covey, just because they performed, so like their songs at one point were very popular.
That's true. But I do kind of like the idea that she was related somehow. That Katniss has Covey roots. I don't know. But
which would make sense as to why Snow was intrigued by Katniss when she was in the Hunger Games, because
and I wonder
too.
Been
reminded.
I wonder too if she looks like her. That for him to kind of latch onto that and see Katniss and immediately like have like not concern but be cautiously interested in her. I wonder if that's because Katniss resembled her in some way. I don't know. Now I'm intrigued by that idea. How about we talk about Dr. Gall, the Umbridge of the book? I don't know. I felt like she would have been interesting to get a perspective on too, because she was just such a twisted person. I like the idea of Dr. Gall being like the creator of the snow that we meet in the Hunger Games, because obviously she was a huge influence on him. And we only really get to see her a few times in the book. I think he has like maybe 3 conversations with her. And I would love to know more about that, because that was so, she was such just like a creepy, evil person. And her view on humanity was so dark. And I needed more of that. Like, I want to know what, like, made her get to that place. And I want to know, like, what else she was teaching Snow about to get him into that mind. I mean, he was already halfway there anyway. He was so focused on controlling everything. Like, that was his big thing, was being in control. And she took that and ran with it and turned it into something dark.
I think I liked the idea that you were brought up earlier today about how this book would have worked better, like the series of vignettes or like
Yes.
short stories.
Yes, I would have
It
loved
was like
that.
a short story collection of like the build up to what the Hunger
Yes.
Games are.
See, Suzanne Collins, you could have done so many cool things.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that this morning. Yeah, so I was saying that I thought this would have been really great, because I would love to see, maybe, like, I'm going to throw it out into the universe. I would love to see, like, a series of short stories from, like, conception of the games to, like, not quite Katniss, but, like, maybe to Haymitch. And, like, you would get a little story about Dean Highbottom and Crassus? Is that his name? Crassus Snow? Like, drunkenly conceiving the Hunger Games and that becoming a thing. And then you would get a chapter about Snow and how he was a mentor in the games. And then you would get a chapter about like different characters and like their, and you could go like from different districts, and like it would have been, oh, that would be great. I really wish that was a thing instead of this. But this is what we get. So I don't know. Just chalking it up to another 2020 fail. I don't know. I will say the positive. The thing that I liked was the ballads, the songs. I loved all the songs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love music and singing and that sort of thing. So I went and looked. Sarah told me that there were people who were making covers. So I went and looked up, and there's a girl named, oh, I should have written this down. Maya something. What is her name? Can you look it up really quick on your phone? Because it's going to bother me that I don't get her name right. But there's this girl that does these covers, and she looks like Lucy Gray, and her singing is just so good. You should look it up. Sarah's going to find me the name. But I loved seeing all the songs and like the poetry of them and getting to hear them. What is her name? Maya Wynne. Yeah, look up Maya Wynne, Wynne. And
Because she doesn't just cover the songs, but she also cosplays and
she
like makes it a whole
cosplays.
production.
It's
so it looks
beautiful to watch.
like she should play.
Like, if they don't
Lucy
cast
Gray
her
in
in
the
the
film.
movie, then I swear to God, she needs to be Lucy Gray in the movie adaptation, which I know they're making. I don't know when that'll happen now, but that's something that was coming. But yeah, go look her up, Maya Wynne. Her singing is so beautiful, but like, she just embodies everything that I saw in Lucy Gray in the book. So yeah, that was my favorite part of the novel, was her singing and her songs. But yeah, I've heard people say, Brian, that they were gonna maybe be more to the books, more books after this, and I said something to Sarah about that this morning too, and Sarah says, but it says the end. That's the end. So I don't know. I would like, they did leave us with some unanswered questions, like how Tigress evolves into a cat and, and somebody who is very against Snow, to the point where I don't even think she uses that name anymore in the books, right? She just goes by Tigress, right? There was no mention in the book of her being a Snow.
I don't think, if
But-
there are more books, I don't think I'm gonna read them.
I might still be willing to try, but
Like,
I'm
unless
definitely
it
not going
goes-
in excited.
Unless it goes the short story route, like what we're pitching,
I
then
know.
I don't care.
Suzanne Collins, listen to me. Do the short story version of this. I would love to see like the vignettes. I want to see Haymitch in his games. because that would be really interesting to see, because he had a lot of connections with Katniss, his mother, and like seeing him as an innocent boy who then becomes this just almost drunken fool. Like, I would love to see a Haymitch book. But yeah, but if it's 500 pages, no. I don't know. But I would love to see more of other things, other districts. We only get to see the capital in District 12 again. And I really wish we could have done more with other districts.
Like Septimus could have added that if
yes,
his perspective.
we would have gotten something about District 2, because like all we really know is that they have careers there. Like that's their thing, is they're more wealthy, so that they are able to train their children to fight in the game. So, but we don't really know how they got to that, because we can see that in this part of the games 10 years in, like they're not there yet. They're not strong enough to train them to win. So I would have loved to see, like, what is it like in District 2? Because I'm still not really clear on what other districts look like. We get to see like little tiny peeks at them in the Hunger Games when they're going on their tour. But even that, we only really see much of District 11, I think, right? Because that they were focusing on Rue and where she came from. But yeah, I would love to see more of the world beyond 12, because we really only get the capital in District 12 ever. And I don't feel like what they did in this book really added anything new, really, to the lore and the history of District 12, beyond like knowing that the Cubby were a thing, and that at one point they loved music, and by the time we meet Katniss, that's not really a thing anymore. But
and I want to know what happened to the Cubby after.
Yeah, what happens to them? Somebody somewhere said that they think Maud Ivory was the old lady that was running the Hob, and I'm gonna have to go look up and see if that's her name, because I can't remember. It's been a while. Like I read the first book again last year when I was writing the lesson plans for the level 12, but I haven't reread the trilogy in a while, and I really want to do that sometime. If nothing else, this has renewed my like love of the Hunger Games, and I want to read them again because it's been a while. But I don't know how I feel about the continuation of this story, because it just, I don't know. Greasy Say, maybe. Yeah, so I don't know if Greasy Say is just her old lady version of her name, or if it's not really Maud anymore. I don't know. But, yeah. I don't know. I feel like this could have been so much more and so much better. And I don't know what happened between her writing it and the editing process. Like, I don't know. I'm wondering too if this is just a case of she's such a big writer and they know she's going to make the money, so they didn't try that hard to edit the book. I don't know, because I just felt like the whole time I was reading that this could have been done differently or better or just shorter. Like, I don't know. There was just a lot of boring nothing.
I understand why we only got one perspective to keep up with the consistency of how the Hunger Games was structured, but that doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yeah, and even then, I don't know. I don't think it was necessary to make us stuck in Snow's head the whole time. Like, it was just too much of it, I think. Like, I really needed a break. And it took me so long to read this book. And the Hunger Game books are fast reads. Like, I read all of those in, like, just a few sittings each. And to have to struggle, and it took me over a week to read. Like, I literally finished it this morning, and that was me, like, forcing myself to sit down and read it, because I needed to have it done. So, it was very mundane. It was so just incredibly slow, and then the stuff that was, like, action and fast was just abrupt, and, like, we did this, and then nothing happened. I don't know. Sarah last night was like, the last part is going to get like fast-paced and exciting. I'm like, finally. but not really,
Yeah.
because like even that was just like, ugh, I don't know. I didn't care anymore. I was done. I don't know. I'm glad that you enjoyed it, Brian. I'm glad somebody could enjoy it. I did look for like positive reviews and like try and get my headspace better, because I just felt frustrated so much of the time reading it, that I wanted to see what people liked about it so that I could like try to see that too. But I don't know. There was just so many things I had too many issues with that it just wasn't ever going to work for me, I don't think. Yeah, like I will say what I did find interesting too was the actual evolution of the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Getting to see that in the beginning that the people in the Capitol didn't really approve. They didn't like it. Most people were like, "Why are we doing this?" And had Dr. Gall not kind of created her protege in Snow, we might have never seen the Hunger Games again, because I feel like had that not happened, it probably would have died out within another game or two, because people didn't care, they weren't invested in it, and the people in the districts didn't even see it. Like nobody had any access to being able to watch it. So I don't know.
And I find that so interesting because Lucy Gray, you would think she's such a memorable person. Like you would think that someone like her would make an impact, but the fact that they could so easily delete her from existence, essentially,
Well, I
was
think
fascinating.
yeah, I think too that just speaks to the fact that people in the Capitol are, even 10 years out of the war, still very frivolous. And I don't know, when you're a frivolous person, you easily forget about things because you're always on to the next thing. And so I just think that spoke to the fact that people there were still, even after getting invested in her, were still pretty much easily led to the next thing. And I think that was a big thing that I noticed in the Hunger Games too, is that how, like, and I think I compare it to American Idol. Like, how many contestants on American Idol do you still remember? And you might have been really invested in the show for a season, but then 2 years later, you can't really name anybody anymore. And it's that same mentality of like, you get really into it for a little while, and then you completely forget about it because now you're onto this new thing. And so yeah, I think that's just how most of us think for things like that, where there's always, it's a new cycle, so you get into the new cycle and then you forget about the old cycle because you're on to the next thing. So, which I thought was such a cool aspect of the story of the Hunger Games, is how easy it would be to fall into that. So yeah, I don't know. I think it would have been easy enough to kind of delete her from existence, except for her music living on. Yeah. So do you have any other thoughts that you want to add? Any other things that you want to talk about the book?
Does anybody have a favorite song from the book?
I think my favorite song was the one she sings in the interview, right? Is that the one? That's her ballad that she
The
sings?
Ballad of Lucy Gray?
Yeah, the Ballad of Lucy Gray. That's my favorite. I don't know. I really like that. I also really liked seeing the origin of the hanging tree. Go ahead.
I really liked, what's it called? The Old There Before. Like, that's the song that she sings in the arena while she's covered in snakes. Like,
That was really
I
pretty.
liked the song, but I also just liked the concept of how her performance looked. Like, I know at least one person on YouTube has covered it, but I want someone to...
I don't think I've seen that.
I
I'll have to look
want
it up.
someone to cover that song, but like, with a pet snake, like, around their neck. You know, you have to perform it like Lucy Gray does. Maybe not with as many snakes, but with at least one snake. It's required.
Yeah, I really loved the musical aspect of the story. And I do wish that, like, the book came with a soundtrack. Because I struggled with, like, what is it supposed to sound like? So, yeah, finding people covering the songs on YouTube
there's
was
a whole
great.
community right now,
So
it's great. Definitely look those up.
Yeah.
You can probably find just about every song someone's covered it.
So I'm going to have to go explore more, because I got stuck on Maya Win, and she only did, like, 3 of the songs, I think. And I just
There's
thought
a
those
bunch
were
of other
amazing.
people.
I've been afraid to listen to any other version of that because I like this version. I just want to listen to that over and over. But but yeah, so that's been nice to find people covering the songs so I can hear them now. But yeah, I really liked getting to see the origin of the hanging tree and how that song came about. But what I didn't like is Snow constantly interrupting the songs with his commentary and how he was just not freaking getting anything out of it. And he would get excited, like, oh, this one's about me. And I'm like, oh my God, not everything's about you. Or how he was like so jealous at every song that was about, what's his name? The other guy. I can't think of his name now. And like, just so hung up on that. Why is she still writing songs about him? She loves me. And like, I don't know. I was just, it was too much. But like, I would get so mad at him for interrupting her songs with his stupid commentary. It's like, shh, this is not about you. Although sadly, I'm pretty sure that one song was about him, which I was just like, ugh, Lucy, can't you see what you're getting yourself into? Like, I don't know. Or maybe she did, and she knew what she was getting into. I can never quite tell because we don't get to know. I wish we could know what she was thinking, because there was a few instances where I kind of wondered, does she know who he is? Like, really? And is she playing him? But we'll never know. And that bothers me a little bit, but whatever. Any other thoughts? Any final thoughts about the book? No? So, I grabbed my copy of Revolution. This is going to be our book for, I don't even know what month, July? Yeah. This is going to be our book for July. I'm excited because I've had this on my shelf for a while, and I've been really wanting to read it, and I just haven't had the chance to pick it up. So I read, is it over here? Oh, there it is, yeah.
This is like the best book ever.
I read this book, I don't know, 2 years ago, I think. And this book was just phenomenal, and I've been dying to read anything else by Jennifer Donnelly ever since. Like, I just need more. And so I immediately after finishing that bought this and just have not picked it up. So I'm very excited. I don't know a lot besides that this is about a girl living in Paris and finding a diary that was written back during the French Revolution. I have no idea what else it is, if it's like science, like sci-fi, like time travel-y stuff, or if it's just her reading a diary and relating. So I'm excited to pick this up because I'm sure that it's going to be really well written, and I'm hoping that I have a good book, because I need something else. I need to like wash my brain from being stuck in Snow's head for so long. So I'm very excited to read that. I can't wait to pick it up, to talk about it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
So I think we will wrap this up. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. I hope you had a good time chatting about the book, even if you didn't enjoy the book. And if you did enjoy it, that's great. Like, I don't hold it against you at all. Like, you're all entitled to your own opinions. This is just what I felt. And so thanks so much for hanging out, and we will see you guys next month when we talk about Revolution. So grab a copy and get reading. And we'll see you guys next time. Happy reading.
Bye.
Bye.